Welcome back to Speaking with Confidence, a podcast that helps you build the soft skills that lead to real results. Communication, storytelling, public speaking, and showing up with confidence in every conversation that counts. I'm Tim Newman, a recovering college professor turned communication coach, and I'm thrilled to guide you on a journey to becoming a powerful communicator. Today's guest is Nick Batchelder. Nick is on a mission to cultivate a world where less people say, I wish I would have done blank in my 20s. He's an author, podcaster, and speaker targeting 20 to 35-year-olds looking for a peer perspective in the self-help genre. If you want to learn more about what your peers are going through and how they are tackling issues like speaking with confidence, this is the perfect episode for you. Nick, welcome to the show. You are officially the youngest guest we've had, and you come with intimate knowledge of what people like me are talking about for people in your generation.
Tim, thank you for having me. I'm excited. That's an honor. 21. Yeah, recently turned 21.
Congratulations. I know that's a big milestone. I say you're the youngest, and it's kind of funny because I view myself as being 12.
Okay. I like it.
Right before we started, I'd say about an hour ago, my wife is a realtor, and she's getting ready to film some content, and she was looking for a catchy phrase about something, and I immediately started laughing. And she asked what I was laughing at. And I told her, and she said, "How old are you?" Because it was, potty humor.
Yeah.
It's what we do. But anyway,
playful spirit.
Exactly. But again, I mean, you're in the weeds with this thing on, what I talk about is, especially from confidence in communication. So I also think that, you yourself, and I mentioned this to you when we spoke, I think you're like in the 1% of your generation in what you're doing. Like I said, you're 21 years old. You already have a book. You've got a podcast that's doing really well. You're doing public speaking. You're doing some coaching. And that's why I say you're in like the 1%. Now, I think your generation is, and I told you this, is probably the smartest and most entrepreneurial, but where I think your generation falls down is in that communication piece. What do you see amongst your peers from that perspective?
I agree. I think we have a lot of energy and a lot of passion. And I think ultimately where we fall short is because of this digital age, we're starting to lose that communication piece. And I would say more so the in-person communication piece. One of the biggest things that I see with my peers is it's never been easier to avoid in-person interaction if you wanted to, right? Like if you really want to, like you can stay inside all day. Like you don't need to take class. I can take online classes. I can DoorDash food to my door, right? I can meet friends on Xbox. Like I don't need to go out to the cafeteria or the bars. And so I think what's happened is a lot of people are just reliant on their home life, and they have all this energy and they get all this content and they see all this stuff come up on their feed, but they don't actually get the reps in for like, okay, like how do I communicate? How do I present myself? How do I feel more confident? And I think it just starts to overwhelm a lot of people.
Yeah. So when you talk about it overwhelming people, what do you mean by that? Because, I think that, this isn't something that at least from my perspective, I don't know that just happened, but where do you think this overwhelm comes from, and what does it feel like?
I think we have way too many options, right? There's a really cool study that shows if you go to buy jam, right, there's 36 options. Most people don't buy any jam. If there's 3 options, like a third of the people bought jam. And I think that's what you see with social media and just with the digital ages. We can kind of do anything. Right. I could do literally anything, and it's so cool. And I can see any content I want to do. I can go out and use my time in so many ways. I think it's just overwhelming. It's like, wow, like there's too much to pick from, and people kind of shut down a little bit and go, you know what? I'm just going to do what I'm comfortable with. I'm going to do what I know. And a lot of that just depends then on, how they grew up. If they grew up playing sports and, playing Xbox, like they're just going to continue to do sports and Xbox. If they grew up, going out and traveling, they're probably going to do more traveling. So I think a lot of it now is reliant more so on how you grew up, because there's too many options for some people.
Yeah. And we'll get back to the jam thing here in a little bit, because you referenced that in one of your recent podcasts.
Yeah.
And I definitely 100% agree with you. There are so many options, so many choices, and we have that overwhelm, and so we like you said, we choose nothing. And that, I don't know if that's indicative of just your generation. I think that that runs the gamut of everybody, but specifically with your generation, you're right. You do have so many different things that you can do, different ways that you can actually communicate with people, and the hardest one is that interpersonal, is that actually talking to somebody, that actually sitting down having a coffee with somebody that you don't know, trying to get information. So what do you see would be, how can we help people in your generation to kind of get over that hump a little bit?
It's really funny that you mention being 12 years old because one of the big things that I've been talking about in coaching recently is playfulness
Yeah.
and improv. And I think one of the best ways to actually develop confidence and not even be confident, but just to start down this journey is to have more of a mentality of playfulness and more of a mentality of improv. Because what I
Mhm.
found is the more that I can improv in the moment, the more flexibility I have, the more confidence I have.
Yeah.
So, I'll give you an example. When I'm public speaking, right? So many people have scripts, and I used to do this
Yeah.
all the time where I'd have a script and I go up and I have like word for word, I know what I'm going to say.
Right. Right.
But that's really scary because if I get off my script at all, like I'm screwed. I'm dead in
Yes.
the water because I don't know what's coming next. And that's like one of the first public speaking tips I get people is like, stop memorizing, practice public speaking. And I have an
Hmm.
exercise where I hand people a random item like this glass case and I have them tell me a story about it, right? And they just have to make up a story for 60 seconds. And, I've gotten pretty good at that. And what I've noticed is, the better I get at improv and being able to think on my feet, the more confident I am that I can go into any situation and like be
Hmm.
okay, right? Like, okay, I'm going to figure out what to say. I'm going to figure out what to do.
Right. Right. And where do you think that whole idea comes from you? Was there a moment in your life that kind of pushed you um, into this realm of let's just say personal development? Because again, at least from my perspective, I don't think you just woke up, a year ago and said, I'm going to write a book and I'm going to start being good at communicating, being a public speaker and doing a podcast. Was there something that kind of drove you down this road?
It was a culmination of a lot of little things. I think when I went to college, that was a big part of it because I was on my
Mhm.
own for the first time and it kind of felt like, kind of turning a new leaf, new chapter of my life. And I was like, okay, like I want to start this chapter different. And I think it was a combination of one, I was like, all right, I have a fresh start. Two, there's a lot of holes that I want to fill.
Mm.
I think I had really good awareness. I think I've always had good awareness. And I think when I got to college, like I was very aware of what I was lacking. Like I did
Mhm.
not have good, communication skills. I wasn't, very confident. I wasn't good at reading. I wasn't really trying to develop myself. And I think I had just had enough of that. And I was like, all right, I'm kind of over it.
Okay.
And I say third, I just had a lot of good role models. I have a lot of good role models in my family and my parents' friends that I've got to grow up around and see them develop. And I'd say that combination of those three kind of came together right when I got to college and was a perfect little storm.
Mhm. So of your peers, how many of them, do you think have that, and I'm glad you brought up the whole idea of awareness, because awareness takes on a number of different shapes and
Yeah.
sizes and and scenarios. How many of how many people in your friend group, in your age group, in your peer group, do you think notice or develop that awareness or have developed that awareness?
I think it's different because I'd say there's two, like, I would say more than you think have the awareness,
Mhm.
just not that many actually act on it.
Okay.
I would say, I would say probably anywhere from half to two-thirds would be my guess of people who have that awareness of, you know, they need to develop or what they're missing or what they could get better at. And I'd say the biggest difference is probably only like 20% to 30% are acting on it, right? Or actively
Hmm.
going, okay, like I want to change, or I see this and I feel motivated enough to change.
Right.
And that can be different. Sometimes something bad enough happens and it motivates you to change. Sometimes you just
Hmm.
have a lot of really good people around you that are crushing it, and you're going, well, if they're doing it, I want to do it.
Right.
And it, depends on the individual circumstances, but I would say more than you think are aware of it, and just not that many are actively acting on it.
So what are some of the reasons that they're not acting on it? Is it does it run the gamut of they don't know what to do, they don't know the steps, they don't know who to go to? What are some of the reasoning behind that?
I think it's just hard, and I think we're just innately lazy creatures, like just by our being, like we don't want to do things, right? We're going to take the path of least resistance. One of the endeavors I went on for a while was career development help for college students.
Okay.
I was having a really hard time actually getting people to engage with me outside of the presentations. I'd kind of show up, I'd give the presentation, I'd be like, hey, if you want more help, like reach out to me, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And no one would reach out. And I was like, why is this? And it's one of those things where it's like there's so many resources out there. For example, with professional development, the school
Right.
offers resources. I was being a resource, and people weren't reaching out. And it was ultimately because one, it's just hard and it takes effort, and two, it's just scary for some people. And so I would say those are the two biggest things. It's like it's either just too hard and they don't have enough umph or motivation or accountability to get there, and two, they're just maybe scared of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole idea of being scared of it, for whatever reason, right? I mean, it could be any number of reasons why they're fearful, right? It could be they don't want to look stupid, they don't want to sound stupid, they don't want to look incompetent. They don't know what they want to do, they don't know how to have direction. I mean, it could be any number of different things, right? And and I get that's a really big hurdle and a hump, and I would say that from my perspective, that goes for every generation. I think that there are depending on where you are in life, you have those hurdles, you have those barriers to success that I think that we put up ourselves, right? Because nobody is telling you that you can't do something, or if they are, you're not listening to it, right? When you don't do something, it's because you're telling yourself that you can't do it, or you don't want to do it, or what have you. And that whole idea of the imposter syndrome, with that internal self-talk, I think it's more us than society or outside people telling us that we can't do something, or you shouldn't do this, or you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think one of the other factors, kind of touching on it's easier to avoid people than ever, is I think my generation has just been tested less, right? Like we weren't like as kids, like sent out onto the street to play and go figure things out and be all independent, right? I think that's part of it too. Of like, we just had less experiences where we'd had to put ourselves out there and face fearful things for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I think that's starting to catch up to you when you get older, of like, all right, now's the time. You don't have anyone to look after you. Like you have to go do the scary thing, whether you want to or not. And I think it just takes it takes longer for some people because maybe they didn't have that experience growing up.
Yeah, dude, you're so right. And when you look at the differences in generations, I mean, not even talking about your generation, my generation, because that's a huge difference, right? Because we were the generation that we're told to go away, to go outside and play, and you better be just come back when it gets when the street lights come on, and I don't really care what happens in between there. Just don't get arrested or get hurt, and and now young people today, they're so structured. They're never not supervised by somebody, right? Whether it's a teacher, whether it's a parent, whether it's a babysitter, whatever it is, they're supervised and very, very structured. There's no just free playtime either.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think the most freedom I had growing up was I rode my bike to school for a couple of years, right? I think we were like literally a minute from school, right?
Yeah.
But like that experience was great, and I loved it. That's just with the times are kind of going away.
Yeah, and for many reasons, it's. I mean, it's. I'm not saying that it's all bad that things are like that, but there are consequences for everything, right? But both good and bad. It doesn't matter what we choose or what we do, what we don't do. There's both good and bad consequences to that. How have your peers reacted to you in in the things that you're doing and in your success. Because, again, they've got to see you and say, wow, Nick
Yeah,
is killing it.
I would say 90% of it has been very, very nice feedback. Yeah, everyone's very kind, especially when they hear about like, oh, like you wrote a book, you're 21. Like that's very, I get a lot of positive feedback like that, and I do really appreciate it. And that was one of the biggest fears too of writing something like that and putting that out to the world of like, wow, like one, like everyone's gonna go, okay, how is this gonna be received?
Mhm.
But I think I thought about it a little longer just because I'm in college and I'm in this kind of bubble where like everyone I know is going to know about it, right? And like there's
Right.
just everyone's attached in so many more ways than they would be when I'm out in the real world.
Mhm.
And so like I was like, all right, if I do this, like everyone's going to know about it. Everything that I write in here is public knowledge now. And that was really scary. But thankfully everyone, I'd say 90% of the feedback I get is great. And 10% is hate stuff that I could care less about and that I don't even read, right?
Yeah. It's kind of funny in a way. I look at things like this, that, when you look at feedback like that, you know, you take the really good stuff, the outlier good stuff, and the bad stuff, and you throw that away because it's either these people really love you and they're going to say great things about you. Doesn't matter what you do, right? I mean, you could, what doesn't really matter, and it's great. I'm not discounting that at all, but in terms of personal growth, sometimes that's not very helpful, right? And then you take the other side that's bad. It doesn't matter what you say or do, and the comments are just not helpful at all. And then if you focus on those things that are in between, that's where I think you're going to get the best feedback to be able to go and improve on whatever it is that you're doing. Either, wow, keep doing this because this seems to be working, or maybe work on this over here, make some of these tweaks, and that's how we're going to get better.
Yeah, no, I love that you said that. And that's actually something I use for like my physical appearance sometimes with confidence. Is that's one of like the biggest things, especially with young people, and
Mm-hmm.
that I deal with all the time. Like, okay, like how do I look? Like I want to like look good in the morning, or sometimes I'm like, I don't feel like I look great. And I genuinely tell myself, I'll be like, on days where I feel like I look great, I'm like, hey, like you don't look quite as good as you think. And on days when I look bad, I'm like, hey, you don't look quite as bad as you think. Like it's always somewhere in the middle. Like, you're good. Like, and I love that framework.
Yeah, but that so that piece right there to me is something that I don't know that I'll ever understand. It's probably just because this is just my face and this is how I look. I mean, there's not a lot you could do with this face, right? But the what your generation does is put so much effort, emphasis on how you look and what other people think that you look, how other people view you and how you look and what you do. When, especially from the digital perspective, 99% of these people don't know you,
Yeah.
and we put so much of our of who we are into what people who we don't even know his opinion.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. I was talking about this on one of my recent podcast episodes. We were talking about like Instagram, and I was really reflecting on like how
Mhm.
my main Instagram page is like so fake.
Yeah.
Because now that I have two Instagram pages, right? I have my professional one, and then I have
Mhm.
like my me one. And I was reflecting on it. I was like, wow, like the content that I post on my professional one, I would never post on my other one because it's like too vulnerable, it's too real, it's too me, right? Like the other one is really just like, hey, here are my highlights. Here's what I want you to think about me. And when I started both the second account, I really saw like how fake the other one was. I'm like, wow, this really isn't me at all.
Well, let's actually get into that because that was a recent episode, and I think that was with Chrissy.
Yeah, Chrissy Desmond. Yeah.
Okay, and there was a lot of really good points in there that you talked about. And, that being one of them. And I don't know. I think I thought she brought up some really good points to say that really wasn't fake for you. It's just different because there's a professional Nick,
Right.
and then there's the regular Nick,
Yeah.
the personal Nick, and there's some similarities there, and obviously you're not going to post some things on a professional account that you would be posting on a personal account. Now, I've got different thoughts on that, but that's not what this conversation is about. But you're building a professional brand, and it's still you. It still has the undertones of you, right? And you're not posting anything that you don't truly think or feel. It's just
Yeah.
it's just done in a different, more professional way.
Yeah. No, I'm actually glad you called me out there because I actually think you're right. And I forgot Chrissy brought up that point. And
Mm-hmm.
you're definitely right. It is a different side of me. It's the more fun, relaxed side of me. And it's definitely less vulnerable, but that doesn't mean it's not necessarily me.
Right.
And so yeah, no, I would agree with you on that. Yeah, good point.
But so if we, as just on a regular, general topics, if we could understand that, how much better would we be, especially from that younger generation. So like for me, I do now have actually the only separate professional account that I have is on Instagram. That's the only one. Everything else is all, it's just me. It's either personal or professional, depending on what I'm posting. And the only reason why I have that one on Instagram is because I did not want to mix, some of my other ventures, like my golf stuff. Did not want that involved in the speaking with confidence stuff, because
Hmm.
I didn't want to confuse people in that manner. But
Yeah.
essentially, the tone is still the same. The content may be a little bit different, but the tone and who I come across as, I think is still the same. Because I think, it doesn't matter, even though we are so, living in such a digital world, we still want to be seen as human, which builds even more trust.
Mm. Yeah, you're right. And as I start to think about it more, I think the biggest reason I have the different accounts is just the people I want seeing it, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more so just I've had the personal account because I have a select few of people. I'm like, these are the people that I want to post this to. Like, this is who this is meant for.
Right.
And I think that's actually maybe even the biggest factor there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, a couple other things I wanted to bring up in that episode. You talked about, you were in class and you had a CEO of a bank who came in, who gave a presentation, and he was
Hmm.
really, really nervous. And it was obvious that he was nervous. And then you wanted to ask a question, but you were nervous about asking the question.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really, really good. And things to think about here is, it doesn't matter where you are in life. Speaking in public is not easy.
Mm-mm. And just putting yourself out there
Yeah.
and yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things, misconceptions that I see is like people are like, all right, like one day I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna be confident. It's like that's not how that works.
That's not how it works.
That's not how it works. Some days you're a 2, some days you're a 6, some days you're a 9.
Mm-hmm.
And the reality is like the people who are really good at confidence are good at just getting themselves from like a 2 to a 6 on a bad day, or
Right.
6 to a 9 on a okay day, and then like staying at a 9 on a great day, right? Like you just have to have tools in the toolbox to help you kind of get yourself up a little bit higher than you kind of naturally are, because every day I'm different, right?
Right.
Like right now I'm feeling pretty good. I would say I'm like an 8.
Good.
And last weekend I was so tired and I rolled to bed. I wasn't feeling good. I was probably like a 3. I'm like, I'm staying inside today. Right. And you just have to like kind of battle that and know like it's just a journey and it's never going to be a 10 out of 10. And I think it's more fun that way, because I think life would be boring if we just found we had these skills and then we got to keep them at a perfect level forever. Like it's more fun to develop them.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so this past weekend I had to do a recording, and kept telling my wife, I said, I've got to get this done this weekend. I have to do it this weekend. I have to do it this weekend. And Saturday afternoon, she said, you're not doing today because I'm looking at you and there's no way that you're going to be able to do it and come across the way that I know you want to come across. And I said, seriously? You're really going to say that to me? But she was right. And I mean, I could have gone through the motions and I could have, done the fake confidence. I could have done the fake smile and everything else. But, especially when you're doing it on camera, right? Number one, it's going to come across because it's there for forever, and you post it, it's there for forever. Right.
Yeah.
And it's very different if now I'm going to a networking event and I've got to go and do those things. I've got to do whatever I need to do to get out of that funk, to get out of that that mindset, because again, let's talk about mindset here in a second, but to get out of that mindset and get into the professional mindset of building and making connections, right?
Yeah. 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 It's an interesting balance of taking care of yourself when you're really not feeling it, and also knowing like, hey, this is a moment I need to push through and really develop yourself. And the more you do it, the better you get at finding the distinction of like, okay, is this a self-care moment or is this a push through, like strap on your boots moment?
Yeah. So let's talk about mindset and building connections, because that's, to me, it's something, as a former college professor, I would talk about a ton, in how important building a network and building personal relationships and connections are, and how it does take a certain mindset to be able to do that. You can't go, let's just say, for example, you can't go to a networking event, hang out up against the wall, have your drink and eat some crackers or cheese or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and expect that people are going to come up to you and start building connections. You have to be the one to go out and initiate those things.
Yeah, and it applies everywhere, right? If you're,
Yeah,
at the bar, like people, someone, a girl's not going to walk up to you if you're just sitting in the bar in the corner, right? Like same with networking. It's same with making friends at a club, right? If you're joining a club for the first time, like you have to go
exactly.
talk to these members. But it's scary and it's new and it's intimidating for a lot of people. And you really do have to start taking baby steps to like kind of get used to that and get, feel like that's something you're good at. And like we were just saying with public speaking confidence, it's never going to be it's never going to be like the easiest thing ever. I mean, maybe if you do it
Right.
for your whole life. I still get nervous all the time about it. And I do this all the time.
Yeah. Well, I hate it. Dude, I'm an introvert. I mean, I would rather poke myself in the eyeballs with a toothpick than go to a networking event. And that's just the God's honest truth. I
Yeah.
mean, I just hate doing it. I don't like doing it. But there's that other piece. At some point, as an adult and as a professional, there are things that you have to do in life, and so you better, if you're going to do it, do it. I mean, do what you need to do to go and be good at it, and do the things that you need to do so that you can go and be successful. Because if you let these things stop you, you're never ever going to be successful.
Yeah. One of the things I've been thinking about is like, okay, like the people that go to networking events and like kill it, like why are they killing it? It's like, well, a lot of those people just want to be there and they love it, right? And it's kind of fun for them, right? Like this, the uber extroverts.
Right.
And so that's been something I've been thinking about, like too, of like, okay, if you're an introvert and you don't enjoy this, like you got to find ways that you enjoy it. You got to find ways to make it more fun for yourself, right? You got to make it a game of like, all right, if I get 5, business connections, I get ice cream after this. I don't know I get coffee the next morning, right? Or like sometimes I'll go with my buddies and I'll make it a competition. I'm like, all right, let's see who can meet more recruiters, right? Whoever gets more recruiters, the other person buys them a drink the next day, right? I try and find ways to make it fun. I also just try and find ways to keep it light. And
Right.
like I mentioned earlier, I like to think of it as like a chance to like work on my improv and like just kind of mess around a little. But I would say the biggest thing that helps me in those situations, that helps me in podcasts like this, right? Like this is like the first big thing I'm doing with my day, right? I think a lot of people would be really nervous about this. Like I'm actually wasn't nervous about this beforehand. And I think the biggest reason is just like being present.
Yes.
Being
Yes.
really good at being present. Okay, because when I'm here in this moment, I'm not thinking about what happens if I say the wrong thing.
Right.
I'm not thinking about mistakes I've made in the past. I'm very present with you right now, and it helps make this less scary and more enjoyable.
And I think that you really kind of nailed it for a number of different things, right? Because if you talk about being present and listening and being engaged, right? Number one, if you're not present, it's obvious. I mean, it is so obvious, especially if you're going to a networking event and you're trying to make a connection. If you're not present and engaged, it's doesn't matter, right? But you can't build true connection. You can't build true relationships if you're not willing to be present, if you're not willing to be engaged in the other person, and being interested in them. And it comes across, it shows on your face. The one thing that, and this bothers me across the board, I don't care who it is. When you're having a conversation with somebody and you hear the phone go off, and the first thing they do is they stop and they look at the phone. You know, to me, okay, why am I bothering? You know, and again, I'm not saying that I'm perfect in this. I'm in no way, shape, or form, right? But when you're having a conversation with somebody, when you're, you know, with other people, unless somebody's head's fallen off, that phone should be the last thing on your mind. You should be so involved in that. And if you're not involved in it, then step back from that. You know, step back and step away so that you're not coming across as unengaged, uninterested. I mean, there's so much to the whole idea of the personal interactions that technology takes away from.
Yeah. For anyone listening who's like, man, I don't feel like I'm that charismatic. I don't feel like I'm that cool. I don't feel like people like me when I'm at this events. I feel like I'm always nervous. Like, I like to tell people it's the easiest it's ever been to be the most charismatic person in the room. Like, people are distracted. People are not engaged. People are not good at reading body language. People are not good at being authentic, right? Like, it's actually so easy nowadays to like come off as like, wow, this dude is confident and charismatic. And it's as simple as you're engaged, your body language is facing somebody, you're leaning in when they're saying something interesting, right? You're with that person. And like, people really pick up on that because it's rare in a lot of settings today.
It is. It really truly is, you know, and you know, there's so many things that you can do, like you just said, to show engagement, to for people like me, again, who's an introvert, who doesn't like doing these things, that, you know, you can do and still be successful. Asking questions, showing interest, you know, and one thing you talked about awareness, but awareness about who you are as an individual, right? Because you can't really build true, real connections with other people if you don't know who you are as an individual. You know.
Yeah, and the more you know who you are, the easier it is, because the more you're okay with going, hey, I'm not for you, or we're not for each other, right? Like, we're not a match. Like, that was something that was a game changer for me, especially with the social media content, where I go, okay, like, if I go to meet this person and we don't, you know, we're not matching, or like it's just not working, it's kind of awkward. My first reaction isn't, oh, like there's something wrong with me. My first reaction is like, I'm just not for this person. We're just different, right? Like, that's natural. And that's really helpful. And that gives you a lot of confidence to go, oh, like, I'm going to meet all these people. And even if I only connect with one of them, that's fine. That's because that's just the person I was meant to connect with. Like, that's natural. And that gives you a lot of inner confidence. You're like, hey, like, this is who I am, and I know it. And I'm looking for people who are like me and that I'm going to connect with.
Yeah. And it's so important. And it's such a good point that, you know, somebody, and again, don't take this the wrong way, that somebody your age has already figured that out, right? Because there are so many people that are so much older than you that have never figured that out. And it's that only comes from doing the work on yourself, knowing who you are, knowing who you are as an individual, what your values are, what your core values are, what you like, what you don't like, what you want, what you don't want, what you're looking for, the directions you want to go. And understand some of those things in life are going to change. But if you don't feel that and don't know those things as those other things are changing, again, you're never really going to have true connection.
Yeah, one of my favorite things I get, you know, one of my favorite things is, like, sometimes I'll be in the living room and I'll just be sitting on the couch and I'll just be like, I'll have no devices on me. I'll just be thinking about stuff, right? My roommates would come in and I'd be like, are you okay? Like, are you depressed? Like, what's going on? I'm like, no, I'm just thinking. And I was like, I think it's so funny. Like, I know very few other like people this age that just like sit around and think. And I think that's a big part of it too. Like, the more time you spend with yourself, the more confident you get, I think, is a big part of it. Like, once you get to know you, that's a great way to get to know you. It's just sitting around for a bit and going for a walk and just thinking about things that you find curious too, and just, you know, working your mind and getting it sharper and all that stuff. Just all those little things accumulate, right? It's never one big thing. Right. It's always a little bit of X, a little bit of Y, a little bit of Z. Yeah. And a lot of people nowadays are like, all right, give me the big fix. Like, give me the thing. What's the one thing I need?
Easy fix. They want something
What's
easy.
the one thing I need? Yeah. And that's just not how it goes. And like you mentioned, like, a lot of people in their 40s and 50s and maybe 60s, like, don't even know this yet. Yeah. And that's why my mission statement is like, hey, like, I want to teach people now, because think about the kind of change you can make once you have that. right? Like so many doors open
Yeah.
up, and I'm going to have so many more options in life because I have it at 21
Yeah.
than if I had learned it at 41. And my goal is to get that into as many people as possible, and that hopefully being a peer, they'll listen to me a little more than, 50-year-old telling them.
And and I'm with you. I hope they do too. And that's also why it's so important, at least from my perspective, that you're doing this, because you know I could tell them 1,000 times, right? And then you come and you say the exact same words in the exact same language, exact same words, exact same phrasing, exact same tone, and you touch them. Where if I do it, it's over their head for whatever reason. And whatever it takes to get through, to get people to, and I say that like it's a bad thing to get through to them, but that's not exactly what I mean. It's like you're in trouble. I'm trying to get through to you, but that's not exactly what I'm talking about. But it's whatever's gonna resonate with somebody is really all that matters to me. I don't care who says it. I don't care who does it, but as long as you get it from somewhere and you hear it from somebody that these are the things I need to be doing or I should be doing, that's all I care about.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the reason you have guests on a podcast, right? It's like, let's get all these
Exactly.
different perspectives. And because I mean, you know so much of this already. But it's easier for your audience when they hear it from different people and different perspectives, and they hear similar ideas across people who don't know each other, right? And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, that has some more validity then. And yeah, I think part of the reason too, people my age listen to me a little more is like, after this call, I got econ homework and then I'm going to office hours, right?
Yeah.
Right. And then still a normal college student.
Yeah.
I just have a bit of this as well.
And it's funny you say that that's what you're doing. I mean, I don't know how you find time to do all these things. And, one of the things that you said to me when we did our pre-interview talk is that you read a lot of books, which to me is great. I mean, I think of the things that really move us forward are, to me, some of the most important are reading books and asking questions. Reading books and asking questions, I think, two of the biggest things that move us forward. And to find somebody, again, and I don't want this to sound bad because I'm not putting your generation
No,
down, but one problem that I have with your generation is you don't like to read. You don't read.
Yeah. Don't read at all. No, I try and give my friends books all the time. They won't read it.
So
Yeah.
how can we change that? Because I think that's a big hurdle.
It's a big hurdle, and you can't just hand someone a book and tell them to read. I've tried that. It doesn't work. My philosophy, well, I have two things that I'm trying right now to do that. The biggest one is I'm trying to be a role model. So when
Okay.
people go, hey, like, how can I be like you? It's like, well, you got to read. That's one of the core things I do, right? Like
Right.
that's, if your role model is, if your role model tells you that this is what they do, like you're more likely to do it. So that's
Right.
part of it. It's just being a good example. And then a lot of like the content that I create, like the book that I wrote was trying to make it as easy as possible for people to read. Like I'll show you, for example, this is, Rick Rubin?
Yeah, I know the name.
Yeah, I love Rick Rubin. Anyway, this is his book, right?
Yeah.
Love this book. And like I tell people to read it. People won't read it, right? Like that's mine.
Right.
Like that's part of it too, is like I'm like, all right, first off, let me try and be a role model. And also like, how can I make this as easy as possible for you? Like my book's like 80
Right.
pages. It's
Right.
so many examples. It's super to the point, right? So it's like, okay, I'm going to make this as easy as possible for you. And then also like, hey, like if you want to do what I'm doing, you got to read.
Yeah.
But it's a tricky one and I'm still working on it.
Yeah. And I like the fact that you wrote a book for people that don't like to read.
Yeah. Yeah. I like to joke.
But like you said, you make it easy for them, much easier for them to read. And I think part of it is, and I'm glad you made that visual. It's our attention spans, right? And a lot of that has to do with technology and so forth. Not to get too far down the field on that, but it's our attention span is part of it. And if you have something like you said that's an easy read, that's shorter and to the point, that is something that is theoretically helpful.
Yeah, and the first step's always the hardest,
Yeah.
right? Like you see so many people, they're like, I'm not going to watch a movie that's too long. And then they end up watching eight episodes of a TV show, right? It's like, well, why do they do that? It's like, well, the 30 minutes seems more appealing to them than the 2 hours. So like, okay,
Right.
I'll do the 30 minutes.
Right.
And then they end up watching more anyway. And so like just having a visual book that's like this thin versus this thick, you're like, okay, I can get through that. Right?
Yeah.
It just seems like less of a commit, like committing to things is a big thing right now.
Yeah.
Of like people do not want to commit to things, and making things as minimal of a commitment as possible is big. And I was joking with my dad. I was like, how good of a businessman am I that I wrote a book for people who don't like to read, right? But it's a fun challenge, and that's the audience it's meant for, and will help the most.
But it's the book has been well received. It's
Yeah. Yes, it has.
So, and let's go back to some of the comments. You know, the reviews on Amazon, they're all really good except for one, and I think the one is a spoof. I read it. I think the one is just some, you know, some troll trying to be funny.
What's funny is I know exactly who wrote that.
Do you really?
It's my ex-girlfriend's little brother's friend.
Nicely done. Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. But yeah, literally, I saw that. I was reading that. It was like, his financial tips are terrible. I was like, I didn't leave any financial tips. I was like, what? And I was like, I was texting some people. I was like, oh, okay, there we go. I was like, so it's just part of it. But I actually liked it better. I was like, I kind of like 4.8 stars better than 5. I was like, it makes it seem more real. I was like, if they're all 5 stars, it seems fake, you know?
Well, you know, I'm really impressed in what you're doing. And I know you got econ homework, and I'm laughing, but I'm not laughing. It's just, you know, let's just put it this way. Let's say you're 23.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you've done this, okay, you may have a meeting to go to. It's just a different timetable, different schedule.
Yesterday I was doing podcast work, editing, posting, did one, right? And then I had an intramural softball game.
That's awesome.
Hey, like that's my life. It's like I'm doing this, and then I'm doing softball, and then I'm doing econ homework, and then I'm in a fraternity, right? And like, it's I think that really helps with my message, because I'm like, hey, like, if I'm 21 years old and I'm doing all this normal stuff that you've all done before, right? And I'm doing this, you can do it too, right? Without a doubt. If the 21-year-old frat guy can do it, you can do it. Like, trust me.
And then again, to me, it comes back to mindset. You know, what's going on up here? You know, what is it that you have to? What's that switch to make a commitment, to get over the hump, whatever it is? Because we all have our thing, right? It doesn't matter. However many billion people in the world, every single one of us has our own thing that is holding us back. And I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Tony Robbins, Simon Sinek, Grant Cardone. I don't care. We all have our thing that's going on up here. And whatever it is that we have to do to get over that, let's figure it out sooner rather than later, and just do it. Do the thing.
And everyone knows what that thing is, right?
Right.
Like Jordan Peterson has a good clip where he's like, if you sit down and ask yourself what are the 1 to 5 things that I need to work on? It's like, you know it. You just don't want to look at it.
Right.
Yeah. You're just avoiding it because it's going to be hard to face those things.
Exactly.
And I would say my one message is to people that are going to start on that path is you don't have to be perfect every day.
Yes.
Right. The idea is like, it's split into thirds. A third of the time, you're going to have a bad day. It's just not going to work. You're going to revert to your old habits. You're not going to make any progress. A third of the time, it should be going pretty good. Like you made some good progress. You felt like you did a decent job. Maybe you didn't kill it, but it was good. And a third of the time, it should be great. Like, man, I killed today. Right? Like that's natural progression of like, it's not going to be good, 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 good. It's going to be good, great, great, bad, good, bad, great, great, good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like that's just what happens. I think a lot of people are like, oh, it has to be great. And then if it's not great, why even bother? That's just not how that works.
It's not how it works.
Don't be too hard on yourself if you have a bad day.
Right. Yeah, I tell people progress over perfection.
Mm-hmm.
Because
consistency is key.
The more you do something, the easier. I'm not saying the better you get, the more you do something, the easier it gets. You have to actually do, be willing to grow to be better, right? the more you do things, the easier it gets. So just start doing the thing. Just start whatever it is, get over it, and you know, and you're going to be fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
problems
Nick,
don't get easier. We just get better at dealing with them.
Oh, just wait. They trust me. They don't get
sure.
any easier. That's why I'm still 12. Sure. That's why
it's easier that way, right? It's more fun that way.
It's much easier. It's much easier. You know, I tell people all the time, you know, I'm doing great unless you tell me otherwise. If you tell me I got other things I got to worry about, then I'll start worrying about it. Other than that, I'm doing great.
I love that.
So it's awesome.
Love that.
But Nick, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I really do appreciate the insight. You know, you're doing great things. Where can people find you? Where can they buy your book? All the good stuff.
Yeah, so you can buy the book on Amazon. Just look up Crush Your 20s. And you can find my podcast, Building the Blueprint, on YouTube or Spotify. And if you get confused about any of that, just look up Nick Batchelder on the internet, and my website will come up, and you can find all the good stuff. And Nick Batchelder on all socials.
It's and it does come up. You got a great website. Your podcast is going great. I love the topics. You know, before I sign off again, because I've always got one more thing. I could talk forever, but as an introvert, keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I love the topics, and I love what you're doing. You know, especially for somebody like me. You know, we've talked. I think it's incumbent upon us as the older generations to figure out what's going on with the younger generation, so that we can have stronger relationships and stronger connections and stronger communications. And you know, there's a couple of really good podcasts out there that mix kind of what I'm doing, but you know, at what you're doing is great, because you're talking to your peers, and we're hearing from their mouth what's going on in their life, what they think, how they're reacting, what their mindset is, right? It's so important. And I think if we're going to move forward as a society, we have to bring our generations together more to understand each other, so that we can actually work together better. Just leave it at that.
I appreciate that, and I completely agree. And yeah, my whole goal is relatable curiosity.
Yeah.
With the podcast, it's like, hey, you know, self-help is great, but everyone who does it is, you know, no offense, like 30 to 50 or 60, right? And it's like, all right, let's bring a more peer perspective. And
yeah.
I want people who maybe go, oh, like that's not my thing, like personal growth's not my thing, to be like, all right, hey, come on, it's gonna be fun, it's gonna be a little more, you know, silly, and then we're gonna also have this bit of personal growth, so you get a bit of both, and introduce more people, so it can kind of be a stepping stone, right? Yeah. Into this world, so people kind of get into it and then go, oh, like I really want to work on my confidence. Yeah. Oh, I know Tim has a great confidence podcast. Let me check that out. Right.
I appreciate it. So do you have, is that some of the conversations you have with getting your guests on?
What do you mean? Like that they're not interested?
Yeah.
In like self-help stuff?
Yeah.
No, not particularly. I don't like ask them that, but I really don't know anyone else who's as interested in this stuff. I know I could count on my hands how many people I know that are interested in this personal development stuff in the same way that I am, right? And so I've had part of it. I had a couple of those people on, but most of it is just, you know, they're like, it's just a foreign world to them. They're like, that's a thing for 30 and 40 and 50-year-olds to do. That's not a thing for 20-year-olds to do. I've got time. It doesn't matter, right?
And
it's like, no, let's do it now so you can utilize the time.
But that's what makes our point.
Yeah.
Now is the time.
Now's the time. Yeah. You can utilize the time and have way more options and way more fun with the time if you prepare yourself now. But that's not the easy thing to do.
Exactly. Well, again, Nick, thanks so much for your time. I do appreciate it. You take care, and we'll talk to you soon, bud.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Tim.
Be sure to visit speakingwithconfidencepodcast.com to get your free ebook, Top 21 Challenges for Public Speakers and How to Overcome Them. You can also register for the Forum for Public Speaking course. Always remember, your voice has the power to change the world. We'll talk to you next time. Take care.